Hey, this week on the 167, we're talking about 1 Corinthians 9 through 11 because the angels. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hey, welcome to the 167. I'm Pastor Lucas, and with me is Megan May and Carissa Motley.
Good morning.
Hey,
This is going to be wild.
strap in, boys. Here we go.
And girls.
And girls. Well, I mean, go get a hat and then strap in.
Okay.
All right, hey, we're going to be in Corinthians 9, 10, and 11 today.
That's a lot of ground to cover,
It is.
in fact.
It's like he's saying three different things per verse. There's a lot.
We'll see what we're actually going to talk about today.
Well, the thing about chapter 9 was that it was a little bit of a recap of what he had been talking about. He went back again to talk about, if something is eating meat sacrificed to idols, like he was kind of recapping that business. So we've talked a lot about that. But this week, Pastor Rick, and if you haven't seen the message, go watch the message, newlifegardener.com. He was really focusing on chapter 10. So we're going to cover that, but then also kind of go back and talk a little bit about chapters 11 and 9. But he was really focusing in on fleeing temptation, and he had some really good one-liners this week. Great job, Pastor Rick. But he talked about fleeing temptation, don't flirt with it.
Yep.
And so a lot of times just asking, we as Christians, we tend to try and see how close we can get to the line. What do you guys think is the reason we're doing that? Why are Christians not like, I don't want to be within 10 miles of this?
Wait, you got to do our shout out first.
Oh, shout out to my good friend Tucker, who's in our Next group and Freedom group. And I found out this week that Tucker listens to the 167.
Go, Tucker.
Hi,
He's like-
Tucker.
He's like binge listening right now. I think he's going back
Good
for
for
all the other
him.
ones because he's
There's,
working.
wow. Okay. Well, good luck to you, Tucker.
I know. You can see the full evolution of this show. So, why do you guys think that? Like, if we're out there and we're like, why are Christians not just trying to put as much distance between us as possible? Why do we end up flirting with sin?
I think this is my favorite thing that comes up every time that you do a youth group talk, like the love, sex, dating talks. Mm-hmm. Teenagers always want to know how far is too far, right? Like that is the classic question with teenagers. How far is too far? But what's funny is like, I don't feel like we really outgrow that. Like maybe, we kind of come to an understanding about there is a line and we don't want to cross it. But to your point, I think that we do try to get as close as we can sometimes. I actually just heard a really great analogy where someone was talking about, like, we just view this line as like on a flat plane in front of us. Mm-hmm. But like, what if it's at the bottom of a hill? Like, wouldn't that deter you from trying to get close to, like, if you're trying to see how close you can get, but it's at the bottom of the hill, well, that's a lot more dangerous than it just being like, I can see it right there and I can inch myself closer to it. I don't know. I liked that analogy of it. Like, what if it's at the bottom of the hill? What if you thought of it that way? Then you would not be tempted to get so close because you can't stop yourself very easily.
The edge of a drop off.
Right. It's like the edge of a
you're
cliff.
Like,
How close can I? And that's the thing too. Like if you use that analogy, everybody, if you've ever been on a cliff, the danger is not actually falling off the cliff. It's that the last part of ground will give way.
Right.
So it's like what you think is fine is actually not fine. It's very, very treacherous.
Sure.
I think it's really like a heart posture issue, like what you were saying, because people are focused on themselves and how much, quote, fun, right? Because in
sure.
reality, this stuff really isn't that fun once you get into it. How much fun they can have. And so we're more focused on ourselves and what we can do versus like our eyes actually upon Jesus.
Yeah.
Because if our eyes are upon Jesus and holiness and having that personal relationship with him, we will naturally not even want to get close to the line or
Right.
the edge or the cliff or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
We'll be striving the complete opposite way, but it's that mindset shift of like, oh, I still want to do this stuff. So like, how close can I actually get? It's
Right,
like,
right.
that is the completely wrong, do a 180, like you were wrong. That's
Right.
completely wrong mindset.
Yeah. I think there's something to that about like rather than thinking about how close can I get to this and not cross it. It's more like, yes, like you're saying, shifting your mindset to be like, why would I even want to get close
Yep.
to that line, right? Like, what is it about, like you asked the question, or Pastor Rick said, flee from temptation, don't flirt with it. Like what, flirting is one of those things that, like we talked about in chapter 8, it's not harmless, right? Like in any sense of the word. Like flirting indicates some sort of motivation behind that. Like flirting with anything, you can use that in almost any context. And so it like indicates interest. It indicates that like there's motivation, like you're thinking about it. Like, and I'm not just talking about like, sexual flirting or anything like that. I'm talking about flirting with anything, right? Like
It makes it sound so gross when you say it that way.
it's
I'm not just talking about sexual flirting.
okay.
Flirting is kind of cute.
I mean, but is it, right? But it's like, that's the thing. We're like, oh, this is harmless. This isn't that big of a deal. But you have a motivation if you're doing that, right? Like it's like premeditated, right?
Yeah.
Like you've thought about it. And so in all contexts, the flirting with anything, like it's letting your guard down, right? It's allowing yourself to think through a scenario in a lot of circumstances. Like it's like,
Fornicatively flirting.
well, you were just working on that the whole time I was talking, weren't
I
you?
was like, how can I make this even worse?
So yeah, that idea that like instead of flirting with any form of temptation, any form of sin, right, that you have to flee from it, that also indicates like you have to take action, right? It's not a passive thing. Like
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go about my day and just, hope temptation doesn't come for me.
Yes.
And just, do, everything's fine. You have to like flee from it, like actively. That's an
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, I was gonna. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you're onto something when you said kind of,
Yes. Onto something.
well, one, like when you
star.
said that thing where like people are like, how far is too far? I'm like, asking that question. That's how you know. Whatever you're thinking about
That's
right
actually
now.
what I usually say. Like I've said that on youth group panels before. Like, oh, if you've asked the question, then you already know the answer.
Whatever you're going to say, is this too far? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
But like when people are doing that, I think, and you were both touching on it, is that we want something.
yes.
Like it's not like we look at, like you said, like flirting with somebody else and going, ooh, no, like I don't want to, like that's awful. I could lose my entire life. It's like nobody does that. They go, that felt kind of good. And so
Yeah.
when you're flirting with it, you're actually trying to extract the thing that you want without paying any of the consequences.
Ooh. That
So-
was better than how I said it. Why does he always do that?
I don't know.
But it really is like I joke with you where like I'll go in and there's been a couple of times where I've gone into like QT or Casey's or whatever, and I walk up to the counter and there's like some lady and
Oh,
she's
this
like,
story.
yeah, I'll be like put my drink up there. She's like, is that all? It's okay, sweetheart. You go. I'm like, and I walk out to the car, get in the car, I'm like, I still got it. Like, so I'm like, some lady gave me my
Or
drink
she's
for
just
free.
pitying you because it's a 79
Well,
cent
that
Mountain
might-
Dew in a styrofoam cup.
She's like, get out
Oh,
of here.
this guy.
You disgust me. No. But I mean, it really, like, there's a couple of times where, like, somebody put me like, oh, I still got it. Like, and that's the feeling, though, that where it's like, oh, if I'm flirting with somebody, this makes me feel good because it makes me feel wanted. It makes me feel what. And now I don't want to be in a relationship and I don't want to pay any of the consequences for that. And I don't want any of that cost. I just want that feeling,
Sure.
And so that's everything else. It's like if I'm driving my car too fast, whatever, like I don't want to get a ticket and I don't want to do it. I don't want any of those things. I just want the adrenaline rush. I want to extract the thing that I want
Interesting.
and not pay any of the consequences. And so I think that's the thing what we're doing as Christ followers as well, is that we're going, I want to extract what I want out of the world, but I don't want to go to hell. It's like, so it's like, I don't want to do something so bad that I have to repent from it and I have to do this thing and I have to feel like I pay penance to the Lord. I just want, my brother always calls it tickling your flesh, which is also weird.
That's
Tickling your
super
flesh.
gross.
It tickles my flesh.
Oh, that's super gross.
So, but the thing that I always think is interesting about this passage is that in verse 13, it actually says, no temptation has seized you except what's common to man, and that God will provide a way out for you. And so I want to know, I have my own theory, but I want to know what you guys think. Is that a literal promise? Like, how have you seen that played out?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It is a good question. I don't think personally I've I'm trying to think back. I feel like the times when I have been tempted or I've been in areas of like, should I do this? Or like, oh, I'm doing that. Like, like there's always times when the Holy Spirit's like, you should stop. You should stop right now. You know what I mean? Like, and then usually I don't, right? Like I'm like, oh, no, I want another donut, right? Or like, oh, no, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing or I'm going to continue this or whatever. But I feel like at least for me, like I've had a lot of those spirit checks. So whether that's, God giving me a way out or a Holy Spirit being like, stop what you're doing, that's always happened to me.
I think so. What can you take a second in there when you say a spirit check? What does that feel like? What is that for you?
Excuse me. Yeah, so I feel like for me it's more of like I literally will hear Holy Spirit, God in my head being like, stop what you're doing. Like literally stop. And it's so hard to describe kind of feelings, right? Like how you feel, but in your heart and in your soul, like you're hearing God tell you not to do this. And you can feel it like, this is bad. Like, this is wrong for me. It's either going to get me sick or it's going to cause more harm or whatever. Like, you can feel it and you know it in your head. So I don't know. So that's kind of what I mean by a spirit check. Like, most of the time I'll hear God, but also like my spirit, like, I can physically feel it. Like, not like oh my gosh, I'm being touched, right? But like, ugh. Like, not a dread, but like that, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this.
Which is always funny to me, too, where people are like, I don't hear God. I'm like, have you had that feeling? They're like, yes. I'm like, you've heard him. You just ignore him.
Right.
That is, in fact, what conviction feels like most of the time.
It's just like Jimmy the Cricket, and then you're just like,
Right.
Wow.
I wouldn't do that, Pinocchio.
Okay. Wow. What do you think about? You said you have a theory.
In my life, I have found that many times I literally get a way out.
Give us an example.
So there's been plenty of times where I'm about to do something that I probably shouldn't be doing, and somebody calls me on the phone.
Oh, okay.
And I have to send it to voicemail to continue what I'm doing. Like there's a literal thing that comes up where I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like, this might be too much information, but I've talked before about pornography addiction. There have been times where I'm about to do that and my computer will like restart with an update. And I have to sit there and consciously go,
Am I going to wait for this?
am I going to wait for this? And it's like the Lord has been like, restart that computer, and it really is. There have been things in my life that almost every time, not that I'm like, I fell into something or whatever, but if I'm like, I think I should go do this and I know that it's bad, I will get a phone call, I'll get a text message. Like there will be an excuse for me to go do something else physically. And that's why that verse, it always sticks with me where it's like, I will literally provide a way out for you. And it's like, so that's been my experience. I don't know if it's been everybody's experience, and maybe I'm just busy and my phone rings all the time, but
that is also true.
But I don't know. I just see that all the time that God is saying, and I think that it's important that he says that no temptation that is seizing you, like no temptation that we face, is something that is uncommon. And which is, I think, really kind of a wake-up call for people who struggle with addiction. Of, people are like, you don't understand, like, I'm like, it's okay. You can just say no. Like, you can stop. And so I think that, when it says that Christ suffers every temptation that we suffered, like, I think that is reassuring to me that, Christ has endured that, said no to it. So God's like looking at you going, I said no to this. You can say no to this.
But don't you feel like then we make the excuse that like, well, I'm not Jesus. Right? I mean, I'm not Jesus. How can I say no to that?
Right. But I think the thing is, do you desire to be like Jesus?
Yes. Okay. So that's it.
Or do you want the adrenaline rush and you want to flirt and tickle your flesh?
All deep questions that we have to ask ourselves for sure.
I feel like too, what you're talking about, like especially like specifically addictions, right? I've never been addicted to something in my life, but I've had people that I very much love dearly who have had addictions, and I feel like some people.
You mean you never had a substance addiction?
Yes, we'll go with that. And so I feel like people oftentimes in those like alcohol, right, or drugs, something that's very much physical, very much like worldly, like you can touch it, see it, feel it, describe it. People are trying to get this addiction out in their own strength. And similarly to when people have other, spiritual addictions or other things like that, where it's not as physical, right? And so I think with that, you're kind of like going at it yourself. And so physically, obviously, it's a lot easier because you don't necessarily need to ask God. You just need to, like, you know, you can wean yourself off the drug, and you do all these things, like, you know, your fleshly things. But I've heard so many stories of people who are like, cold turkey, like, I'm not doing that anymore because the Lord's told me not to, and I don't. Right? Like, that's what Jonah and Trent did with nicotine, right? And with alcohol. Like, he just was like,
See, I heard
No.
it had to do with the power of Diet Coke as well.
that is true. He did start drinking lots of Diet Cokes, which he doesn't even do that anymore either.
That's harder to quit than nicotine.
But like in that too, he was like, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to drink it. It makes my head hurt. It makes whatever. So I think people oftentimes feel like, you know, especially with physical addictions that are very worldly, it's all in your own strength, when that's the complete opposite. Right. Like, go to God and he will help you get out of that.
Yeah.
You know, physically and spiritually and emotionally and all these things. And that's what people usually go to.
But that's the thing. I almost think that physical addictions, though, are something that is easier to quit, because most addictions are addiction to self. Like, you know, and like when you have a drug, you're chasing that feeling, you know, like, but, you know, and that's why I didn't mean to pick at you, but you were like, I've never had an addiction. And I'm going, yeah, I think everybody has, but a lot of times it's an addiction to my phone. It's an addiction to self. It's an addiction to an identity that I have. It's always I have an obsession with something that I'm into right now. That's like, that feeds something inside of me. And I think it's really easy. We deal with this in Freedom a lot. Somebody be like, oh, I don't need freedom. I'm like, why is that? And they're like, well, because I'm not a cocaine.
I'm not an addict.
You know, and I'm like going, yeah, but you just told me that you have chronic unforgiveness in your life and you gossip like nobody's business. And they're like, yeah, but I don't have an addiction. And I'm like,
Ooh, I think that gossip is an addiction.
right, because it feeds something inside of yourself.
Yep.
You get to be the center of attention.
Yep.
Everybody wants to know it. Like, that's
Yep.
the thing that it feeds. And
Yep.
so I think that those are harder to identify and harder to get over because you don't have track marks. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't.
There's no external signs.
And
It's less
sometimes-
visible to people.
People want you to be a
Yes,
gossip because they want the
absolutely.
tea.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So we actually have Paul asking that as an example. He says that all things are lawful, but then he says, but not all things are helpful or build us up. So when we're talking about those things that, you know, that we can engage in, that they're, you know, they're not illegal. So where do we draw the line between kind of not giving offense and not seeking our own advantage, but regarding them? So like Paul goes in this whole thing where he says, hey, listen, I'm not going to seek my own advantage. I'm going to try not to offend people, because he's still talking about meat sacrificed to idols, right? He's still talking about all of the things that he's just talked about. He says, listen, I'm going to try and live at peace with other people. I'm going to try to not be offensive. If I go to somebody's house and I sit down and they serve me meat, I'm not going to be like, no, is this sacrifice? Like, I'm just going to eat it. And so, but he says, but for the sake of other people's conscience, I will not participate in certain things because it causes them to stumble. And so that's what he's talking about, seeking my own advantage. So where do we start to draw the line here between what's helpful and builds up and what's lawful? I didn't answer that question, but I could tell by your faces that you're like, is that a question? So like, okay, we'll start with this. Give me an example of something that you think is lawful, but is not helpful or build up.
I mean, you can legally smoke cigarettes or vape. That's legal once you're 18, right? So that's legal. It's terrible for you, but you can do it. It's
Yeah.
also legal to drink alcohol after you're 21. Does that mean it's good for you? No. Like, it's not going to lead you into anything good. So
I always think it's funny because people ask this a lot about what if they legalize marijuana? And I'm always like, how does that build you up?
I mean, in Missouri, it's legal. So, just go to Missouri, friends, I guess, if you really want to know what that's like. But is it beneficial to you? Like, is it helpful? Is it bringing you closer to the Lord? Is it helping your witness? I mean, all of First Corinthians kind of has this theme, right? Where it's like, hey, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should all the time, right? Like, just because you can, sure, you can do a lot of things. I mean, it's maybe not the best idea, but Paul's going, I'm not here to tell you the law, right? Like, that's not my job. I'm here to tell you kind of some of the consequences of choosing the way that you're choosing.
Yeah.
And what happens.
This reminds me literally of our next leadership training. The first week we went through the four or five questions. It's like, is it emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, is it helpful
Yeah.
for you? does it bring you under its power?
Right.
Is it glorifying to God? And does it hurt other people? Mm-hmm. And so I think about that a lot when it's lawful. It's like, yes, like technically I'm not going to go to jail, but like it can hurt my sister, like,
Sure.
or what, you know what I'm
Right,
saying, or
right.
whatever. Or like I'm being brought under its power. Like I'm not
Say,
sober-minded.
unpack that a little bit. What's an example of something where you're like, oh, this brought me under its power, or would for somebody?
Yes, I was like, I've never struggled with substance abuse, but like, so it's harder for me to like have those specific examples. But like, you know, for alcohol, where like I can have one drink and I'm not gonna get drunk, right? I mean, probably like I'm probably such a lightweight. I've never had a drink, but like if you know your limits, right? But like you're still gonna get tipsy. You probably still shouldn't drive, or you could be saying some stupid things even though you're not drunk, right? Even though you're not going past your limits.
And I always think about this. It's very expensive, right? If you go to a restaurant and get a glass of wine, that's expensive. So you're
All of the
spending your
good
money.
stuff is expensive,
Right? The good stuff is expensive. And it's also, like I always think about this, like just for your bodily health, right?
Right.
Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to drink my calories. I mean, some people do, right?
Yeah.
It's
I know,
literally,
crazy.
that's wild.
No, but yeah.
So in addition to what
Yes.
you're saying, yes.
Yeah. And
there's
I think
also
about,
those.
or sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was just saying, I think about like Instagram, social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is one that I think a lot of people don't realize. Like there's almost no good thing coming from this anymore. Like I was telling Elena and Tia the other day, I was like, I miss when Instagram was just to post a picture and I'd see Tia's little kitty and I'd get to like it. Like that is so not what social media is anymore.
Yeah.
And there's advertisements and there's fear mongering about the government and these conspiracies and there's literally naked women. Like people do these outfits, OOTDs, right? Like, you know, rainy fall day, they're just naked. Or like they'll have like a bra and I'm like, what is going on?
What
Why
are we
have
doing?
we accepted this, right?
What's on your Instagram feed?
I'm trying to find some cute
Outfits.
and these ladies are half naked.
But
Like,
no, this is how
that's-
they start in
Yes,
the
yes.
base layer, right? Which
Right.
for
Well,
not
that's what
is
I-
not always clothing items.
right.
I told Carissa, I was like, I
Guys.
had to train my algorithm because it's always like, hey, I like this motorcycle. Do you want this hot lady on a motorcycle? No, I just like the motorcycle. Like you have to
Right.
you have to unlike and like tell it
Yes.
like I don't
Okay,
want
but
this.
so and that goes back to like actively again, like passively, right? We can't flee passively. So like your algorithm's going to keep feeding you anything that you literally pause on right now, right? Like that's crazy to me. You pause and watch it for any amount of time and it's like, "Ooh, you like this."
Yep.
You don't even have to interact with it. And so then that's like, "Oh, now like I have to make an even more conscious decision about what my eyes are looking at." Right. And like mine is shopping. Like I get all kinds of ads for clothing because I shop for my kids online, you know, like that. It's way easier than going to the store. But like then you just get that in your feed all the time. And so it's like online shopping. Can that be an addiction? Absolutely.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, we
Like
just helped Big Sur. We helped a mom that had an online shopping addiction.
yeah. So like that's a very real thing, right? Like again, can you shop online? Sure. Do I shop online all the time? Yes. Lucas is always like, oh my gosh, there's another Amazon package. Like it's my subscriptions. It's like the laundry detergent, you know, the toilet paper.
It's not fun stuff.
It's not. I mean, the girls get it. They're like the Amazon trucks are. I'm like, it's the toilet paper, right? Like it's the Kleenexes. It's you know. But that can, right? Just because you can do it doesn't mean it's beneficial for you to go down a rabbit hole on that, for
Yes.
sure.
And I think in that, like with social media or with shopping, whatever you have, get rid of it. Like
Yeah.
Jonah
Yeah.
and both Jonah and Trent, a lot of our next guys, they don't have Instagram. They just don't. Like it's so much harder to swipe past a girl's picture in like a swimsuit, even if it's like, you know, like a nice girl's swimsuit. Like I was talking about a swimsuit, I want it. Jonah sees it on my phone. He's like, he doesn't need to see that, right?
Sure.
Delete the app.
Sure.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's the thing. Like, even I had to get through that where you're like, oh, it's harder to like swipe past that. I'm like, yeah, but I had actually started to take the time of being like, going, I don't want to see this. You know, it's like you're saying, like being active of going, I don't want to see this. I'm not interested in this. You know, they'll ask you like, do you not like the content, or like, do you just never want to see a post from this person? And I'm like, yes,
Both.
both.
Yes, please. But that's, you know, when you're talking about like how do you flee from temptation, it has to be active, right? You have to participate in that. It can't just passively occur, right? Like it can't just happen.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that, about how do you flee temptation? How do you fight temptation? Because I feel like sometimes we're trying to be active with the temptation that's in our flesh, you know, and we in Freedom, we teach that kind of your three things, your spirit, soul, body. So like there's a temptation in your flesh, there's a temptation in your mind, but then there's also spiritual temptation, which is just the devil. It's very much the cartoon thing where the devil pops up on your shoulder. He's like, hey, maybe you should take another look at that Instagram post. Like maybe we should save that for later. Like it's that kind of thing so how do we actually fight that temptation in the moment? Because is it that I throw my phone across the room and then when I go back and pick it back up, it's still there? Like what do you do?
I would say kind of for me, what I've been going through of, I'm trying to think of a temptation that I go through, but replacing the lies with the truth. So if I'm struggling with lust, or I'm struggling with like what I eat, or I'm struggling getting up in the mornings, or whatever it is, like I will find verses that specifically go alongside of that, and I'll try and memorize them. And so like obviously, like there was a verse that I was memorizing when me and Jonah were engaged, and we were like struggling, right? Like we're about to get married, it can be really difficult, and I would memorize this verse in my head, and Holy Spirit's so funny, like we'd like we're this close to the line.
You're so funny, Holy
and I'm
Spirit.
like hearing it in my head, I'm like, I literally can't do this, like we literally can't do this, right? So it's like if you don't have any truth in your head, then you're gonna always succumb to the lies.
That's good.
And then also like it goes along with like taking every thought captive, which is also something that is your will. Like it's,
right.
I was telling Jonah, we were talking about his sermon today for a youth group, but it's like our willpower, but mixed with God's strength. So like God's strength is powerful and can do anything. And when we are weak, he is strong, but he needs our will to say yes, right? To accept, like to help us in our lives. So I think, when you have these temptations, like taking your thoughts captive, having your willpower being like, this is a bad thought. I'm not going to have this thought. Lord, remove this from my head. And replacing it with like John 3:16 or like whatever it is,
Sure.
Well, I always think about that where, and I've talked to my girls about this a little bit, but, when I was growing up, my parents made sure to tell me, they're like, hey, listen, if you're ever in a bad situation, just call us, which I know a lot of parents tell their kids that, like, if you end up at a party, there's alcohol there. And even if you start to drink and you're like, oh no, I don't want to get in a car and drive away, but just call me because I would rather be mad at you than you be dead, kind of a thing. And so I always think about that where I'm like, the Lord has literally offered us like, hey, just call upon me. I'll help you. It's my strength. And it's like, but sometimes we're so embarrassed that we won't call upon our Father for strength in that moment.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end up doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And so I when we're talking about fleeing temptation, how you fight temptation, I think that you have to do it, like you said, in your mind, like I want to change my mind on this issue. And then, that may end up being that if you are experiencing spiritual temptation, like I would say you would know that you're experiencing spiritual temptation if you're minding your own business and then all of a sudden it's like, you should do this, like in your head, and you're like, and so that would be an example I would think of spiritual temptation. If you go to the liquor store and stare at an entire bottle of vodka and that's not spiritual temptation, that's flesh temptation.
Right.
If you have one drink and you're tempted to have another, that's flesh temptation. Your flesh is crying out for that. But if you're just minding your own business and it's like you can hear the audible, you should do this, like get out of there, and you're going to have to speak back to it. You're going to have to use scripture and say, that's not who I am in Christ. And I would encourage our listeners to do that out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like treat it like it's there with you and say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. That's not who I am. Here's this memory verse that I've memorized for this particular occasion.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was, we're we have our young adult leadership group, training group right now, and we were talking about memorizing scripture, and I suggested like put the scripture that you're trying to memorize on your lock screen of your phone, because as soon as then you open that, instead of, oh, I have a lively picture of me and Lucas that Megan took.
Love
Do
that
we
pic.
have the
We
same
have the
picture?
same one. It's really cute. Look at us. Oh my gosh.
We
You
didn't
guys
even do
can't
that.
see it, but but if you pull that scripture up, right, and so if like, especially if the temptation is on your phone, and if it's like, oh, I can have enough willpower to shut down my phone, but then I go to turn it back on and there's a Bible verse there, right? Like that's a little bit of a deterrent, right? And then like Lucas is saying, we had this in one of the
Mine right now says better to live on the edge of a roof than with a contentious wife.
Stop it. That's in Proverbs, everyone. You're funny. You're so funny. You're so funny. But if you
the
have
roof.
that where you're like, again, like you're exposing yourself to the scripture, right? Like, where will I see it the most? How will I get it into like my memory and be able to speak it out, right? Like, what do I need to do? It's the planning, right? So instead of like flirtation is like, I think like premeditating to get into temptation, but we need to premeditate how to flee, right? Like we also have to have a plan. Like you have to have a strategy for that. You can't, again, it's not just going to happen, right? I'm not just going to be like, oh, I can finally say no to this thing unless I have
That was the
a game plan for that.
Right.
that one sermon I preached where I had to talk about a Ramakasi dodecahedron.
You didn't have to, but you chose to.
Yes, but I had to look it up. And there's literally YouTube videos that are just like Ramakasi dodecahedron.
On how to pronounce it.
Ramakasi, and it just does it over. And I just put that on a loop, and I was like doing my work, but in my head I just hear this Ramakasi dodecahedron, and I'm just like,
And
okay.
look at how that flows out of
Yeah.
off your lips right now, right?
So even if you need to make your
Practice.
own audio file, that's just like
Yeah.
better to live on the side of a roof than.
Why? Why is that the verse that you are pulling right now?
I don't know.
Well, but along with that, I feel like a lot of people identify with their sin. And so, like cigarettes. Like there was someone, I don't remember who told me this.
Jimmy Evans, it's in your freedom homework.
Was it?
Yeah.
The cigarette thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a smoker. Was that
I'm a
that?
non-smoker.
Yep.
smoker.
Yep. So like when you're struggling with something, like you do not have to identify with what you struggle with,
Yep.
right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be an addict, right? And then like telling yourself that you are not like I don't struggle with this anymore. I've actually that was Andrew too. Like I don't struggle with control. I'm surrendering control to
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Right? Like changing that. And like some people don't think that your words matter. They matter.
Yeah,
Like
for
what
sure.
you say matters.
sure.
What you say can be a curse or a blessing on yourself and on others. So don't identify with your sin.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
I realized about halfway through this podcast, I started talking like this, and I think it's very smooth. I'm going to continue to talk like this throughout the.
Are you?
Lucas's radio show.
Welcome, because we're about to talk about some two weird things to cinch up chapter 11. Are you ready?
Pastor
Just
Rick,
for fun.
Pastor Rick did not talk about this on Sunday. So if
I
you're
think there's a
looking
reason.
for further study in the sermon, this is not. This is Lucas trying to put us on the spot, I feel like.
Well, we're trying to cover all of 1 Corinthians side. It's the 167. So I'm like, hey, you should continue. You at home
Yes.
should continue to read all of 9, 10, and 11, not
Yes.
just what we read on Sunday. So we want to help you out with that. So chapter 11, 1 through 16 is wild. So
Should we summarize it?
I
How
think,
else
I think
summarize
before we
this?
do that, you guys are going to have to put on a hat.
You literally the section heading at chapter 11 verse 2 is head coverings. Okay, so just so everybody knows, that's what we're talking about.
Also, chapter 11 is one of those chapters that I always like point to where people are like, oh, what about this chapter and this chapter? I'm like, the chapter divisions are not always stellar because
No, that's true.
it literally, starts with be imitators of me as I am of Christ, which is clearly a thought from the previous
From
chapter.
chapter 10. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if the guy, like there used to be a joke in Bible college that the guy was like riding on a donkey and like put the dot in the wrong place with the chapter division, just missed it by like one sentence. So yeah, this first part is about head coverings. And he says, now I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain traditions as I deliver them to you. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head, which is why old people used to make me take my hat off in church.
Yep.
It's disrespectful. But ironically, we'll get to say. But every wife who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, since it is the same as if her head were shaven. But if a wife will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short. Get those bangs, girl.
It's not the same thing. I just need you to stop saying bangs.
Listen, I'm talking about like the bangs where like it's like barely covering their forehead. Have you seen those bangs? Oh my
Are you going to
gosh.
read all of this?
No, that's okay.
Okay. So you should keep going if you're going to read it all.
But for a wife to cut her hair or have a shaved head, let her cover her head instead. For a man ought to not cover his head. And it talks about how men shouldn't have long hair. It's very evident. But the women should have long hair and should cover their authority because of the angels,
Yes, because of the angels.
not the baseball team.
Because they're watching.
Because the angels are watching.
Which I told you earlier, I think about that verse every time that I'm in the shower.
It's weird. We're just being weird
The
today.
angels are watching.
Okay. Okay, so first thing, so Yes.
What does this have to do with anything, Carissa?
Yeah, I don't know. But the first thing I want to have you talk about, so you're reading from ESV. ESV does say in a lot of these sentences, a wife. Okay. But in NLT, it just says woman. So talk to us about why that is translated differently, and does that change the meaning then of this passage?
Yes, and they are interchangeable. So it's because it's the same word. I'm going to lose it. It's gunia, I believe, is woman and wife. And then I don't remember what man is, because it's not Adam. It's like anthropos. I don't know, that's mankind.
Right, but
I don't
so
know, I can look it up later.
like I said, it says man in both translations, and I like the NLT, but the NLT does say man and woman, but ESV that you just read says man and wife.
That's because in Greek there's no word for wife. It's your woman. And really, and so a lot of times you can differentiate it because there's an article in front of it. So it'll say like the man or the woman, like that means a singular man or singular
Right,
woman,
right.
indicating that that's the husband or wife.
Okay.
So,
So does that make a difference in how we should read parts of
Yes.
chapter 11? Is it a wife needs to cover her head? Because it does talk about authority, right? Like it talks about that is the reason why a wife is a wife versus all women should cover their heads.
yes, and this is Lucas's theology, so I'm open to debate on this if you want, but I have never seen an indication in the Bible that every woman is subject to random men.
To all men.
Yeah, to all, like, it's like, oh, well, I happen to be some schmo on the street, and they're like, that's not Christianity, that's Islam.
Right. And also that's, like when we talk about misogyny and like, gender discrimination. So the Bible is not promoting that. It's not saying all men have authority over all women at all times, always.
Right, and you can even see that in the Old Testament where you have, I always point this out about like when people talk about the Proverbs 31 wife, it says she goes out and she negotiates the price of a field. Who do you think she's negotiating with? Like she's probably negotiating with the owner of that field, which is probably a man.
Right.
And so it's not all men have a claim on all women. And that's even even that reference where it says because the angels are watching. Like some people think that's a reference to the Old Testament where it says the angels lusted after women and took them and basically raped them. And so it's like going, so that is wrong. So like,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing. It's like there would be no rape if every woman was just subject to every man, which again, Islam. But if you are the husband of a wife, like that's the authority thing. Every time they're referencing Adam and Eve, which he does in this passage,
Right.
in the beginning, God creates man and then he creates woman from man.
Right.
And it's a symbol of marriage. It's talking about this relationship. And so he's saying that like, men get our authority from Christ.
Yeah.
Right. And so like we're saying, okay, that's where I get my authority from. I'm not subject to anybody else. I'm just getting my authority from Christ. And then that's really, and I've heard people challenge me with like, think about it from your protection. Like I get my protection from Christ. He's my authority. He's my accountability, who I'm responsible to. And they're saying, women, you are accountable to your husband because you were made in this, helpmate role and stuff like that. And it's like, yes. And then he goes on and says, but now, what does he say? As women were made from man, so now man is born of woman. So he says, nevertheless, in the Lord, women are not independent of men, nor man of woman. So every time people start to go, look, men get to treat women however they want, there's usually 2 verses down a follow-up sentence that is like, hey, listen, we're not independent from each other. Like, you need to live in harmony in this kind of symbiotic relationship. So, but it's talking about authority, so especially in that culture, and even to our culture somewhat today, that's why women take men's names. It's like, it's this idea of, I'm supposed to be your covering, I'm supposed to be your authority, I'm responsible for you. So, you're getting your authority from your husband. He's the authority and he's responsible for you. And Christ is responsible for us because he dies for all of us. And so women are under that as well, because if you view that as like a trickle down effect, Christ has taken responsibility for humanity. We're taking responsibility for our wives. Wives, you are also, nevertheless, you are not, independent. You don't have zero responsibilities. And then he says, and God, the Father is, responsible for all of us. And so, but this whole idea, I think, of the head covering, you have to look at what that is culturally. Like it was shameful for women to have their heads heads shaved, and
Because what did it indicate?
yeah, it indicated that you were available and sometimes a prostitute.
Yeah. That was a common practice in like temple prostitutes, that they would have shaved heads too, so that people would recognize like what they were what they were doing, what their profession was.
Yes, if you were a married woman under the authority of your husband, you were very modestly dressed, and that can even be a metaphor that like your head covered. That doesn't mean that you're wearing the hijab, it doesn't mean that you're wearing head to toe burqa. It means that you are modestly covered up, that you're feminine. Like where he talks about, men are not supposed to be effeminate. They're not supposed to have long flowy hair. And it doesn't mean you can't have shoulder length hairs. It's basically making that point of, you're not supposed to be effeminate and women are not supposed to be masculine. It's like, so you might as well shave your head, cut it short, do whatever. And so, that indicated that you were not married, that you had done something shameful, that you were a prostitute. And so if you go out on the street and prophesy like that, like he's talking about, you shouldn't pray or prophesy like that. If you go out on the street and your head's shaved and you start yelling in the street, they think that you are a temple prostitute from another religion. And he's like, hey, maybe just wear a hat.
Which is, again, 1 Corinthians, the more you get into it, you see this thread running all the way through, which is very much like what we talked about in chapters 7 and 8, right? That it's like, okay, so can you eat this meat that has been sacrificed to idols? I mean, sure, but what's that doing to your witness?
Bad look.
Right? Like, what's that doing to your witness? Are you really fully giving people a picture of what it looks like to be a follower of Christ by engaging in that behavior?
Well, I don't think that people, a lot of times, I did not grasp the state of Corinth.
Sure.
So, like,
yeah,
there's a guy I listen to that he always calls 1st and 2nd Corinthians 1st and 2nd Californians. But he just says it's a, but he says it's just rife in Corinthians that and he said that he was doing background study on it, and he talked about how he said it was an insult to somebody in the same way that if you call somebody a cretin. Mm-hmm. You ever heard that? Mm-hmm. Maybe not generationally, not so much.
No.
If you were to talk about somebody, if someone was like rude and brash and loud and kind of didn't have good manners, you call don't be such a cretin or cretin. Sometimes people, but it's from Crete, the island of Crete. And so the people in Crete were so bad, it became a slur to call someone a cretin. And so Corinthian apparently had the same reputation that if you were sexually immoral, you were a Corinthian. And so it's so bad. There's temple prostitutes, there's meat sacrificed to idols, there's all these things. And he's like, do not, like if you're a new convert of Christ and you got your head shaved because you're a temple prostitute, maybe don't go out and prophesy because it looks like you are wearing a demonic t-shirt and preaching Christ. It's like, it's not a good look.
Right.
So
yeah,
I guess that would be the thing is, like you said, like, don't do a get ready with me for church and start in your underwear.
I mean, you shouldn't do that anyways, but
especially not if it's get ready with me for church.
Right. And you should be feminine. You should have your authority with your husband. Your husband should have his authority from Christ. And then he says that's, it dishonors your head when you cover it, basically saying like, if you took your own authority away, and I think that we all intuitively see that. Like I always tell people like, that's the thing where like, do men rule their household? I'm like, no, but we all know the guy that's kind of like his wife is domineering. And I don't ever think that that's healthy. So if you're removing your own authority, like voluntarily and getting rid of it, like that's not good as a man.
Okay, real quick. I know there's probably not much left, but I want to unpack this just a little bit more specifically because I feel like if I have questions about it, other people do, right?
Don't shave your head, Megan.
I'm not going to shave my head. Actually, Jonah wanted me to get a pixie cut, and I was like, you're literally crazy.
Lucas
do, like,
did the
1
same
Corinthians.
thing.
Are you serious?
He for years, he was like, just cut your hair short. Just get a pixie cut. It would look so cute.
I
Ew.
know. I'm like, babe.
Not on me.
I think he wants me to look like a character from Twilight that he used to have a crush on. Her name's Alice. She's so cute. That is not my style.
It's not a good reason.
I'm just tired of finding hair on my clothes.
Well, that's not my fault anymore. We have 4 daughters, so.
And a cat. So, anyways, derailing.
That's a long cat hair.
So the questions I'm having is kind of what we were talking about, but maybe just a little bit separate. So maybe just a little bit more explanation in these different things. Because as I'm reading this, it's talking about, man was made in God's image and reflects God's glory, and woman reflects man's glory. So because, man didn't come from woman came from man, right? Woman was made for man for this reason. The angels are what, right? What I have covering, put her under authority, or to show that she is under authority. So does authority, is that talking about like protection as in like you have a husband, you're protected, like a wedding ring? You know what I'm saying? Kind of like that. Like if I'm walking around with a wedding ring, no guy's gonna flirt with me because they're like, oh yeah, she like has a husband, right? Like she's kind of like that. And then also the idea of like, kind of woman reflects man's glory. Like I read that. That was what I read early, and I was like, oh, that makes me feel weird. Like, what does that actually mean, right?
That woman reflects man's glory?
Yeah, so it says like man reflects God's glory. And it
Right.
says, we're all made in the image of God, but then this specifically is talking about that and how woman is from man. Woman reflects man's glory. Kind of what's the explanation there?
A really simple physical, like in the flesh example of that, I would say, is what is it? I can't remember who said this, but they said the status of a woman is her surroundings, and the status of a man is a woman. Like that's where men get their honor and status. And like if you talk to most men, like sometimes men will get a lot of honor from what they do as a profession, but mostly it comes from their wife. Like if you are at home, if you are in a relationship where the wife honors you and thinks that you are her superhero, you can endure anything. It's like, and so in some ways, and this works in public as well, if you go out in public as a man and your wife's just like, sweetheart, I love you. Can I get you a drink? Like other men, you are elevated in status in their eyes. Like, and it doesn't matter if that person is a supermodel or if it's, if you are rich or whatever, like other men will be jealous of you if your wife treats you like a king. It's like, and that's just a way that they view you. And so a lot of times the glory of a man is, and so her husband's glory is like her thing. It's like, how do you elevate that status? But also, and that's the whole point of Proverbs 31, right? It's like, who can find a wife such as this? And it's like, and really what that's talking about for men is, if you have a wife like this, it says it's better than silver or gold, right? And so that relationship where in the Garden of Eden where God's like, hey, man cannot do this by themselves.
It is not good
Yeah, it's not good for
for man to
in.
be alone.
And
It's
so
not good.
They need a helper suitable. And so that's the thing. It's like, and so God gives woman to man. And it's like, so in some ways your ministry is your man. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean that in you can't have a career, that you have to sit at home and bake sourdough bread. But in many ways, that
Thank
is
goodness.
that is the number one cause of depression for men, is the way that their wives treat them.
So can we talk about though? Okay, so follow up to that where you just were, Megan. He does say in verse 11, nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, nor man of woman.
Right.
Okay. So for as woman was made from man, so man is now born of woman, and all things are from God. Right. So, and he even says that at the very beginning.
Because men didn't go in a lab and create woman.
Right.
God creates women from man.
Exactly. And, so it's like, sometimes it can feel like there's this hierarchy and there's this like authority structure, but right. Like he comes back even at verse 3, I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. So like even Jesus is under the authority of God the Father. So again, it's not supposed to be this like derogatory thing, which is where I feel like that's where it feels bad. Is it's, because we kind of go like this, like, oh, it's God, and then it's Jesus, and then it's men, and then it's women. And so like in our minds, it's a tier structure, right? And so it feels like women are at the bottom. Then you're putting women at the bottom. But over and over you see in the scriptures that it's like, okay, so really like, Paul is saying men and women are not different or better. Well, they are different, but they're not better one than the other, right? And, woman is not independent of man, but also man's not independent of woman, right? So it's like we all have to partner together in order to make that work pretty well. But so what, as we're talking about this, though, like, so Paul also has this big soapbox about like, hey, it's better to be single. So then what do we do with that? So we're talking a lot about husbands and wives in this passage. What about
You don't have any of these
single
anxieties.
Well, I mean, he does, right? Yeah, that goes back to chapter 7. But, what do you do? So, in terms of authority,
Avoid the angels.
in
Oh, Megan almost
I
choked
know
her.
Megan
So
just took
sorry.
a drink of.
I literally had that in my mouth.
So, in terms of spiritual covering and spiritual authority, can you unpack that? Like, what does that mean? So obviously, if the head of man is Christ, right, that still makes sense. But so we just said, not all men are head of all women. So for a single woman, what's the authority structure there for
Your
her?
authority would be Christ, unless a man takes authority for you. And modern equivalents are different, because in the Bible, you would be under your father's authority
Right.
until you were passed to your husband.
Right.
So
So our daughters are under your and my, because we are one flesh, they are under our spiritual authority and
Yeah,
covering.
and I always tell people, like, if you just substitute the word responsibility,
Sure. Okay.
it's like I'm responsible for my daughters until another man takes responsibility for them.
Okay.
But not everybody has a great relationship with their father. Therefore, it transfers to the Heavenly Father, and you're just under the authority of Christ. But like women can put themselves under the authority of the elders of a church. You know, like there's other passages that talk about that. And so you can sit under authority by whoever you choose. Mary and Martha choose to sit under the authority of Christ. You know, it's like, so not everybody is like that. And so, but yeah, like, and that's what Paul says later on, actually in these chapters. He says, hey, can I not take a wife? Sure I can, but I don't. You know, and when he's talking about everything's lawful, but it's not beneficial. And he says Cephas has one. Peter has a wife, and he says a believing wife, that Peter has a believing wife and takes her with him on mission trips. So it's like, that's fine, but now he's responsible for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so single women, you know, like I said, I think that's, you know, and that's why like nuns put themselves in a nunnery, and they put themselves under the authority of the church. And so I think that is a dangerous place sometimes for women to be, because you're vulnerable and fragile in that way, and not, you know, in a way that's like society can't protect you, but you are putting yourselves under authorities. You're putting yourselves under the government's authority. You're putting yourself under different authorities to stay safe. And so I don't mean that in like, if anybody knows Carissa and I's relationship, I'm not a misogynist or anything like that, but I just say it like that. That's the simplest form. Like like the default form in the garden is one man, one woman.
Right.
And so if you choose to be single to go and further the glory of God, that's great, you know, but you have to put your authority, then you have to put yourself under the authority of Christ. And I would say that to women is like, if then you are out preaching the gospel and some man like goes, well, I'm a man and I get to tell you what to do. No, you're not in authority over that person. So
That's great. I just wanted to clarify that, because not, you know, again, not everyone listening is married. So,
and again, that would fit under the category, I think, of like when we talk about divorce, that it's not supposed to be that way, and that's why it's painful. If you have a terrible relationship with your father, that's awful. Like your father should be a stand-up person who is taking responsibility for you. And like we see it, I always think naturally you see it and everybody goes, oh, this is so great. Like, you know, you see women who like every time they go visit their dad he gets their oil change and rotates their tires and cleans their car and like does something to take care of them. And then it's like, he does that until you get a husband, and then that becomes a tension in your marriage, right? If you're like, oh, I just called my dad
I called
instead.
my dad. Yeah, my
It's
dad
like,
took care of it.
That's a conflict of authority.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's dual loyalty. Is that satisfying?
Yeah, that's great. I think that's great. Yep.
The last thing was communion, but I'll just summarize this because we got to go. We're almost at another hour again for the 167.
Did anybody complain?
First
No.
Corinthians, man. There's a lot here.
It's thick. The last thing he does is he talks about how people are arriving to take the Lord's Supper, and they're getting there early to get snacks. They eat all the bread and they drink all the wine, and they're getting up in the club a little tipsy. And then people show up to take the communion, and they're like, hey, there's nothing
There's no
left.
communion left. What happened to the communion?
And so he actually says that you are drinking judgment upon yourself if you're doing that, if you're getting drunk on the communion. And so he says that's why some of you are sick and dying, which I think is a crazy concept, that you could actually be drinking judgment upon yourself by taking communion in an unworthy manner.
He does say, because I read it earlier and I think it's funny. Where is it? He says, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. If anyone is hungry, let him eat at home. So that communion's not like the meal that will physically fill you up. When our youngest daughter she accepted Jesus and got baptized, and so she started taking communion. And she said that to me once, like, Mommy, when can I have more snacks? I was like, oh, it's not a snack, sweetie.
I was like, P.S. That is also our rule on granola bars in the lobby.
If you are hungry, you should eat at home.
Please feed your children at home, and then
This is a snack.
it's
a
to
little
tide you
top-off.
over to
That's
lunch.
Right. That's right. We don't want anybody passing out.
But if you are eating granola bars in an unworthy manner, if you're pounding 5
In an
granola bars,
unworthy manner.
if you're pounding 5 granola bars and drinking 3 cups of coffee,
I mean, I feel like this is like junior high boys. We see you. Okay, all the 7th grade boys is, that feels like the target audience for that announcement right there.
But I think that Christians also they take this. I can't tell you how many services I've sat through and somebody's like, if you have unconfessed sin, if you did that, you're going to drink judgment upon yourself. I'm like, I'm not getting it. Calm down, buddy. It's grape juice. It's not wine. And you gave me a small little wafer of bread.
Right.
Did everybody get communion? Great. And so I don't take it to the nth degree that some people do, where it's like, if you're taking this for any other, if you haven't, settled every sin in your life, if you shouldn't take communion because you'll die. And I'm like, calm down. So don't get drunk on communion, and it's not a snack.
I mean, you can't at New Life. It's grape juice. So
Yeah.
Sometimes it's real sour though. Like, whoa, is this fermented?
But still, if you are not a believer in Jesus, there's no point in you taking it, because
Correct.
it's to remember his death, burial, and resurrection.
right.
So it's not just fun. It's not for funsies.
Not a little snacky.
It's not just a little snacky snack. Oh, Mayor.
But there is a whole line of theology that they believe that taking communion actually has the opposite effect, is that if you take it in a worthy manner, that it will bless you with health and wellness and not dying.
Where is that line of thinking?
It's theology. Theology means that it's a theory that you read the Bible and put something together with something like the Trinity.
I'm trying to
Like
help
the Trinity.
I'm trying to help the people know what's actually in the Bible and what's actually people talking about the Bible.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yes.
it is a theological point that they're reading that going, well, if I drink it poorly and
And it leads to death.
it leads judgment on me, then if I take it, it should be a blessing. So, and I would say it is a blessing for you. I just don't know the extent of that blessing physically.
Okay. Good clarification.
Great.
At least spiritually.
Hey, thanks for staying with us this whole time, and keep reading 1 Corinthians. Go read 9 through 11, and
Yeah, we've got a couple more weeks in this series, right?
yeah,
There's 16 chapters in 1 Corinthians. So we are getting close to the end. We've got 2 more weeks. So we're going to do 12 through 14 this
Yeah.
week, and then 15 and 16. So
I hope that all of you
Hang in there.
don't shave your heads and dress provocatively and try and prophesy out on the street. That'd be bad.
I don't know. We didn't even say, like, should we wear hats in church? We didn't even get into that.
I guess I shouldn't. You guys should. Which I just think
The
that
angels.
the irony in that is
That's going to be our
angels are
catchphrase,
watching.
because of the angels.
I'm just gonna start saying that when my kids ask me why.
Because of the angels.
Finish your food. Why? Because of the angels. The angels are watching.
It's in 1 Corinthians, chapter 11.
Did we even unpack where that came from?
What?
The angels are watching. Did we unpack that when we were recording?
I think so.
Okay.
We're still recording.
Yes, I know. I was like, was that a pre? Because we do pre-talks. I was like, was that
We
a
do
pre-talk or
have
was that actually
pre-talk.
recorded?
Shh, we
I
don't do
think you
pre-talk.
said that.
All of this is just as
Off
you
the
see it.
cuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
No.
so well informed.
Wisdom just pours out of
We
me.
don't have to do any research or anything.
Never.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time here on the 167. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.